Deep Rock Galactic is one of those rare games that keeps me coming back. After launch, Ghost Ship Games stated that their next update would bring more mission types, and with this latest update, they've definitely delivered. This is a major deal considering that the lack of mission types was a primary critique on launch. Update 32, Roughnecks at Work, adds 2 more mission types, bringing the overall amount of missions from 5 to 7, and these missions aren't to be dismissed as an afterthought. Not even close. In fact, once I played these missions, I was instantly stunned at the quality of them. They easily dwarf the mission types we had before. My expectations were totally blown out of the water. I didn't even know this was something the game needed. But after playing these missions, it's pretty clear that these 2 missions are perfect additions to the game. I think it's clear Ghost Ship Games really had precise and thoughtful aim with what they wanted to do with this update, and frankly, they hit their target with grace. Now, this update added a bit more than just the 2 mission types, although those 2 missions are the primary focus of the update. In addition to the extra missions, a slew of new cosmetics have been added, and there have been some tweaks to weapons and overclocks. Some things got nerfed pretty hard, like the breach cutter, but most of the other overclocks and equipment changes have been pretty straightforward buffs. In this video, I'll be going over the most important things to know about this update, sharing my first impressions, and maybe even nitpicking a little bit here and there. But first, if you like this content and would like to see more of it, please be sure to subscribe, leave a like, or even a comment, as it helps the channel greatly and might help other people find this video. As of making this video, I really haven't been able to try out the new overclocks, so do let me know how they perform if you've tried them in the comments below. Anyway, let's just get right into it. One of the 2 new missions that have been added is Escort Duty, where you're tasked with escorting a hulking drill dozer and protecting it on its journey to drilling out a priceless mineral of some sort from a nearly impenetrable shell. Bugs will attack the drill dozer, leaving you to protect and repair it before it sustains too much damage and explodes. The drill dozer will carve out some really neat looking tunnels and dig into some unexplored cave systems, so as the mission progresses, new areas are discovered. On the way to the destination, the drill dozer may run out of fuel once or twice, leaving you and your team to take the fuel canisters and fuel up using the new minerals scattered throughout the cave. This is a really cool feature, and it's unlike anything we've seen previously in the game. Ghost Ship definitely did not have to do this, but it creates such a cool scenario for you and your team, and also helps the overall pacing of the mission, giving you a little bit of a breather and letting you explore for a little bit before having to continue. Now, the fuel source mineral can be mined with the fuel cell itself, or your teammates can help you with their pickaxe and speed up the process. Another speedy method of extracting this fuel can be done with the Driller's C4 or the Thin Containment Field mod on the EPC. I actually have videos on both of those strategies, which you can check out with the links in the description. After you've fueled and reached the destination, then you've got to get ready, because this is the hardest part, and it really does feel like a boss battle. The drill dozer will start trying to crack into this crazy rock, and then naturally, as rocks do, the rock will try to defend itself and attack the drill dozer, all while swarms of bugs continue attacking at full force. Flying rocks will try to smash into the drill dozer, forcing your team to prioritize them before they inflict serious damage. After a while, pillars will burst from the ground and shoot lasers at the drill dozer, dealing continuous damage. Someone will have to attack these pillars with their pickaxe or drills, or the engineer's grenade launcher also does the job pretty well. They are terrain entities, so you need to destroy them in the same way you destroy terrain. Again, the Driller's C4 or Thin Containment Field EPC is really useful here, but I think the most effective way of taking out these pillars is probably with the engineer's grenade launcher. While you're trying to excavate these pillars, someone will undoubtedly have to be repairing the drill dozer, as these lasers do pretty impressive damage. Once the shell is cracked, you deposit the prize onto the mule and begin the standard extraction process, likely running through all the tunnels the drill dozer has dug itself. This mission type actually fulfills a lot of requests by players in a pretty masterful way. The pacing is well tuned, the difficulty is properly challenging, it's a completely fresh and unique experience, and it's essentially a boss battle. Boss battles have been something the player base has been hungering for a while. Yeah, we have Betsies, Corlock Tyrants, Gun Towers, and Dreadnoughts, but those feel more like mini-bosses than anything. With the Almiron extraction process, we have stages of an encounter, a steady build-up, and a grand arena to fight in. Not to mention, it tests all of the skills you acquire in the normal playing of the game. It asks you to prioritize different tasks, whether they be repairing, fending off a wave of bugs, target prioritization, or terrain manipulation. The escorting part of the mission almost takes a back seat in comparison to the finale. It really makes me wonder what a full-fledged boss battle might even look like. Now, escort missions are very often scolded by the gaming world, and for a variety of reasons that aren't necessarily unreasonable. In many games where you're forced to protect a target as it travels from point A to B, there are often a bunch of arbitrary factors that make the mission irritating, like poor AI and permanent damage, as well as just being uncreative and boring. But this escort mission seems to dodge all of those common traps with a little tuning, which leads me to believe that Ghost Ship Games is a studio that develops with their eyes open, so they can see those traps and avoid them. Although, this escort mission does seem to have its own little issues that seem to be unique to Deep Rock Galactic. The drill dozer digging into lava vents and explosive plants are little hindrances that would largely appear unavoidable, unless your driller is paying attention. Even still, this is one of the few times I've ever been able to say that I genuinely enjoy an escort mission. The second new mission, Onsite Refining, is just an absolute joy to play, through and through. Similarly to a point extraction mission, a large platform is dropped shortly after the drop pod lands, from which you designate and construct pipelines leading to wells of liquid morkite. The whole process of setting these up is really pleasant, as you're actually allowed a huge deal of agency in building these pipelines. You decide the best possible path of the pipelines, which is an extremely refreshing change of pace from the usual reliance on unpredictable RNG. You're also incentivized to edit the environment to facilitate the effectiveness of these paths, if you so wish, creating a really cool dynamic between the driller and engineer that didn't really exist to the same degree before. After you've set up your pipelines, you and your team still need to construct them, so it's important to be mindful and not too thoughtless when you place these. In fact, there's a really novel feature where you can grind on the pipes with a little board and use them as a kind of roller coaster. Again, that's not something this mode needed, but it's there, and it works so perfectly. I think this one little feature adds so much to the mission, as it makes you think about your pathing of the pipes in a totally different way than you would without it. You can ride the pipes regardless of angle, so you can use these pipes as kind of windy zip lines. If you need to carry an Enor pearl to the platform for a deposit, you can use the pipes and it will always take you straight to where you need to go. There are thought processes here that are totally unique to this mode, which is a little jarring compared to the default modes, but I'll talk about that in just a few moments. Once you've constructed all the pipes, you then begin the liquid morkite extraction process. The refinery will begin its mechanical symphony of bangs, rattles, and clanks, and then the bugs begin their swarm. This is the part of the mission that has a heavy focus on combat. In the middle of the swarm, the pipes will begin to burst, and your squad will need to repair them. This may be a little confusing at first, because once the pipes fail, you might think you failed at defending them, but the truth is, the bugs don't deal any damage to the pipes at all. The pipes will always fail, regardless of your ability to defend them from the bugs. Once the pipes do fail, you need to go to specific areas of the pipes and repair them. The bugs may attack the pipe, giving you a little breathing room to repair them with relative safety, as the swarms will never subside until the refinery has completed its goal. At the end, you are left to press the button on the platform one final time, launch the liquid morkite back to mission control, and extract yourselves in the standard way. These two missions are totally overflowing with thought and care, and the quality of these additional missions just screams that into the face of whoever plays them. It's impossible to avoid noticing the huge leap in quality and complexity in comparison to the 5 mission types we were stuck with before. In fact, this leap is, like I said earlier, pretty jarring. The simplicity of egg hunts, eliminations, mining expeditions, point extractions, and mule repairs, while being perfect in their utility of being a standard experience of the overall gameplay loop, lack that novelty aspect and complexity of these 2 new missions. Now, that really isn't a complaint. What I just said isn't necessarily a highlight of something bad. Maybe not every mode should have that novelty and complexity, but the contrast is obvious. There's something very straightforward about the old missions compared to the new ones. I will add, even if this observation is seen to be a problem, this is a pretty good problem for a game to have, let's be honest, because when your new content is too good, well, what can I even say? That's probably just an indication that they've surpassed all standards and expectations. Even if for some reason a switch flipped and I was a die-hard critic of Deep Rock Galactic and wanted to see everything as a problem, I just can't even do it with these missions. What's there to complain about? How can I say with a straight face that these missions are too good without making a fool out of myself? Ghost Ship Games outdid themselves with these missions. That much is beyond any doubt. I expected this update to be about as good as the update that added the mule repair missions, but I was just blown away. I don't know, maybe I'm overselling these missions, but I'm genuinely trying to find something to complain about, and I can only come across more praiseworthy things. Now, there are minor nitpicks, like the drill dozer sometimes floating or making the act of following it a little difficult, but those things can easily be seen as emergent environmental obstacles to be solved on the spot, which would, as far as I'm concerned, be another positive trait to be added to the list. I just can't escape praising these modes no matter how hard I try, so I'll move on to something that I can more easily criticize. The sounds of Deep Rock Galactic have been changed around and edited a bit. Many of the newer sounds have replaced older ones that have already left an impression on my brain and many other people's brains. Sound cues have been shifted. Digging chunks of minerals out of the ground seems to make a different noise. Disturbing glyphid swarmer tunnels makes a different noise. And even that distinct ping sound of the past has been replaced with a far more dull, forgettable sound
Look what I found!
that is way less likely to catch your attention. Why these things needed to be changed, I'm not so sure. I'll grant that the change to the Glyphid Swarmer sound cue sounds more believable and natural, but why has the sound for digging up minerals changed? What was wrong with the original ping sound? And why is the alternative to these sounds more dull as a consequence of the change? I understand this comes down to taste. Newer players are less likely to have issues with these changes, and I also understand that as someone who's been so accustomed to these sounds for so long, that this change is more likely to make players like me, who've played the game for a while, uncomfortable. Still though, I think these are fair questions to be asked. Now, to be perfectly honest, this is a major nitpick, and maybe I'm alone in this criticism, but that old ping sound was so identifiable, and it fit perfectly with the overall vibe of the game. Why did it need to change? And why did it need to be replaced by something so boring and forgettable? Plenty of models have also been touched up and given a fresh, new coat of paint, although Molly still floats and clips into the drop pod at the end of every mission. The customization options for your dwarves has also been greatly expanded. Now, I'm a sucker for cosmetics, so these cosmetic additions are very welcome to me. Plenty of cosmetic matrix cores have been added as well, although even when I decided to save my matrix cores in hopes of being able to unlock some cosmetics relatively early, I just got the same boring mustache 3 times in a row. RNGesus did not smile on my efforts. There were some very noteworthy changes to weapon balance in Update 32 as well. A lot of the overclocks you would have otherwise dismissed as garbage in the past have seen some pretty major buffs. The stats and mods for a few of the weapons have seen some tweaking, and while I won't go into every little detail, I will go over the most important bits. Some weapons have seen some pretty straightforward buffs, but a few people seem to think that others have been nerfed into the ground relative to the place they were before the update. The cryo cannon has seen some pretty generous buffs. The max ammo without any ammo mods is now 500. I want to say that's 100 more than how it was previously, which is no joke. With the ammo mods, you can reach 725 tank capacity. At first I thought this might be overkill, but then I realized this stretches its utility and practical compatibility with the cryocannon's overclocks. It's no secret that the ice, spear, and snowball have been generally ignored past their initial novelty, because the ammo cost does not justify their use. But with all of these ammo buffs, you really might not be crazy to bring these overclocks into Hazard 5s anymore. I'm actually really excited to try out some new builds of the cryocannon that I definitely would not have considered in the past, so I think this ammo buff is a really welcome one. Also, any swarmers frozen by the cryocannon will now always shatter. This is a major change. It used to be you'd still have to finish the swarmers after you've frozen them, making the cryocannon far less ideal in missions with lots of swarmers. That conflicted with the general role of the driller, which is crowd control, and made the driller less reliable to fulfill his role. If you're getting overwhelmed by swarmers, it should now always be that you can run to the driller and expect solid support without worry about the 50-50 chance he doesn't have the appropriate primary weapon. This is yet another welcome change because having to finish off swarmers was never fun, especially when the special effects from the cryocannon hid them so well after they were frozen. Now, the breach cutter has seen some pretty heavy nerfs, bringing back flashbacks of the old Iron Will nerf. Pre-nerf, the breach cutter was way too versatile. It's supposed to be stronger against larger enemies, but it had become really easy to use against crowds as well. most situations you might use the grenade launcher in, you'd probably get away with using a breach cutter in as well, and it's pretty clear why they've changed that. They've decreased the beam width and moved some of the mods around on the mod chart to further constrict the versatility of this weapon. They've also decreased magazine capacity and increased reload time. If you've been using your breach cutter to strip the armor off large enemies and just deal heavy damage, then you'll largely be fine with this change. After all, they haven't decreased the damage output of this weapon. The biggest change is definitely the reduction to the beam width, and they've actually removed the line width mod on tier 3 and replaced it with a non-consequential reload speed mod that I suspect no one will choose to equip with any enthusiasm. It's not unlikely that this nerf will disqualify the weapon from use amongst a lot of players who have used it in previous updates. And that's okay, I think it's intentional. This is supposed to be a niche weapon, although you can still build it to be strong against crowds. It's not as though this weapon has completely lost all of its utility. It's still a very powerful weapon. The M1000 has seen a buff to the base focus speed, so if you've put off using the improved hipfire accuracy because of that fast focus speed just being too nice, this update might allow you that little bit of extra wiggle room to try that other modification. Alright, so the engineer's turrets have been buffed, particularly the Gemini system, the mod that allows you to place 2 turrets. All turrets deal an extra point of damage, and the Gemini system now grants you 90 extra ammo by default. That's a really nice buff, but I think it might be too generous. It alleviates the difficult choice between the extra ammo and the quick deploy mod. I think less people are going to go for the extra ammo over the build speed. Previously, this decision would have further justified the use of the decoy grenade, which I think was a really good relationship. This does still further incentivize the use of the Hawkeye mod alongside the Gemini system, so I think we might see this buff rolled back a little bit to the point to where we have the ammo bonus, but it will be something closer to 60 additional bullets instead of 90. I'm just really not sure that this flat ammo buff to the Gemini system is going to remain for very long in its current state. But I could be wrong, and it could very well stay like this despite what I think, so I really don't know. As for the grenades, the Allure no longer receives friendly fire damage, greatly increasing its potential lifespan. Now this is a pretty major buff that might seem slight on paper, but it has major consequences, so I'm really happy about that one. The Scout's Pheromone Grenade now makes bugs 50% more attractive. This was a buff the Pheromone Grenade really needed, to be honest, as it did certainly underperform at its intended purpose, which was supposed to be instant relief from the swarm. Now to just briefly brush on the Overclocks. Overclocks that have been changed have actually been buffed. Actually, I don't think even a single overclock has been nerfed, which is a pleasant surprise. The hyper-propellant overclock for the grenade launcher is actually a force to be reckoned with now, instead of just being the lackluster yawn it used to be. It has been shown some serious love. It's been given its own effects and even a crosshair, and it does serious damage now. It really is a sort of rail cannon after this buff, and can just destroy Praetorians, Shellbacks, Wardens, and Menaces. Of course, it's just not so good against crowds, so it's not like you won't pick this overclock without serious sacrifice. The Breach Cutter's Inferno overclock is now more effective at what it does, which is burning enemies, so that's good. I still probably won't use it. Now, these next two are examples of otherwise useless overclocks being shown some love and given a use. Embedded detonators for the Scout's SMGs and the Driller's pistol have been nicely buffed. The damage from the reload explosions have been seriously buffed, and the drawbacks of picking these mods have been reduced a little bit. In the case of the Sabata, the damage penalty that came from this mod has just been totally cut, so these are overclocks you might actually be able to salvage some utility from, finally. The combat mobility overclock for the gunner's autocannon has also had its share of buffs, increasing the movement speed bonus, adding a pretty serious accuracy bonus, and outright removing the damage penalty to be replaced by a magazine capacity penalty. But they've also added a reload speed bonus, so this overclock might totally change the way you use this weapon now, and give it a slew of traits that make it way more versatile in certain ways of play. This overclock is definitely worth considering after this change. Finally, the AI stability engine for the Scout's assault rifle has been buffed as well. I'm really excited about this one because I love using his assault rifle, and the AI stability engine was an overclock I really wanted to like. The AI stability engine now deals more weak point damage, but slightly less damage in general, meaning this overclock now has a reason to compete with the compact ammo clean overclock, which previously largely fulfilled the same purpose but with no drawbacks. having the AI stability engine actually make sense with a certain playstyle is a very welcome change. Overall, I am loving this update. I think it's easily the best update to come out in the past, I want to say the past year, or even, but I think even more than that. I think this is my favorite update in general, actually. Better even than the launch update. This update just totally blew me away. At the time of this video going up, I haven't really had a chance to try out all of these overclocks, so please let me know what you guys think about these changes in the comments below. I'm very interested in what you guys think. Just as my finishing thoughts, I've gotta say it's so refreshing to experience new things in Deep Rock again. And while we didn't get the new biomes like I thought we might, the fact that the missions and overclock buffs have been added with such astronomical quality really does satiate my hunger for new content. And I'm glad we have more to look forward to in the future with this game. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. I appreciate your time. If you'd like to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe and leave a like, and yeah, I'll see you next time. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna go play some more Deep Rock.